what does it mean to read the Bible with the Spirit? What is the Spirit? You know, like I got my opinion about it. I'll also say what I think about it. But when you say like when you're reading the Bible, it's a living book, and you're reading it with the Spirit, what does that mean? Just so that I know that I'm also like not doing it wrong. Like not that maybe you can do it wrong, but like I want to know what you guys mean by living in the Spirit. Let me just make sure the camera's still rolling, but you can answer.
This is
It's
a
a
good
tough question.
This is a
Huh?
really
It's
good
loaded.
question.
It's a loaded
It's a
question.
really
but
good
like
question.
That's what it's about. It's like we're not saying we got all the answers. This is all about a discourse between ideas and us trying to find the truth. And that's why this trip is also that's why networking is so important. Is being able to communicate with like-minded individuals and coming to new ideas. Like I believe the Spirit is here right now, trying to convey a message. And so yeah.
That's a whole different area of conversation too. Why network is powerful because we need to save that because I'll go on that. But I think reading the Bible and understanding how to read it with the Spirit. What is that? Everything, something my mentor talks about, everything comes down to the principalities. So you cannot, I'm not telling you what you can and can't do, but when you read the Bible, you have to read everything before and after the sentence that you just read to understand the principalities. You cannot read the words for their definition. You have to understand what do the words mean, because it's like when you're having a conversation with somebody, you can either feel heard and understood, or you can just feel like you can feel heard or you can feel understood. And those are completely different things, because if somebody hears you, they hear the words that you're saying and take them at face value. If you say, oh, I love this, I love being here, somebody's like, oh yeah, cool, but they don't actually hear you or ask you, why do you love it? They don't, so I think it comes down to not reading the words at face value for their definition, but what is the message trying to be portrayed? And then that comes down to seeking the truth, and when you seek the truth, you're automatically in tune with the Spirit. And I think that's what it comes down to for me.
I think it's also the intuition as well. Like everyone, I think at the moment, like that's my understanding of it, it's like that intuition. It's like you just know. I don't know how to explain that. You just know. And also every single hour of the day, you know what you need to be doing, and you know what you should not be doing. And the easiest way to achieve success, like the fastest way possible, is just to do the things you know you need to be doing at all times. If you do that more, you'll achieve it quicker. And obviously, if you do the things you shouldn't be doing, like it will just take longer, or you won't even achieve it at all. And you know exactly what it is every single time. You should be doing the emails, doing the sales calls, but you're just doing nothing, just chilling, watching Netflix. Like you just know, and that's why I think also depression comes from. It's like you know what you should be doing, but you're not. So you're aware of that, and that makes you like depressed and anxious because you're not taking action.
So what do you think though about what he had asked? How do you read from the Spirit? How do you read it?
To be honest, I have no idea.
I think when it comes to reading with the Spirit, and to kind of piggyback off of what Rob said, I think a lot of it comes from a sense of alignment. Because when you're already... So I think that in order to read with the Spirit, you need to already trust in the Spirit and be acting in the way. Because if you just pick up the Bible and just say to yourself, I'm going to read with the Spirit, I don't think that is going to give you what you're trying to derive. But when you understand the message and the philosophy behind the Bible, and now you sit down and you start to read it, and it was like what you were saying with you just know. There's a sense, there's a feeling, just like when you do something that's really good, like when you help someone out, or you do a very good act of kindness, and you just get this warm, fuzzy feeling on the inside. You will get the same warm, fuzzy feeling when you're reading the Bible with the Spirit, because it is present. And the feeling, you can't even put the feeling into words, because it's not human-like, it's God-like. And we will never understand God. And I think that is reading with the Spirit.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum it up. I think that's very good, Yeah, I think that's good. For me, like how I sort of That's a difficult question. That's why I wanted to answer
It's
to ask
loaded.
it, to try and see what you guys said, because I'm also not really sure. For me, it was like when I heard that, or let's say previously when I didn't 100%, believe that this is true, or when I wasn't really a believer, it was difficult, or not really, but like my doubt was just so much more than what it is now. It was difficult for me to read the Bible and be like, yo, really, did this really happen? And then like the oomph is robbed from that. But when you really sit down and sit with it, and then you read a verse, and then you incorporate the Lord, and you pray about it, like it's almost like the word is alive because it's moving. It's like then you'll hear something. It's then like the ideas come in, the emotions to that sense, like. I think there's so much more to it. I don't know what Rob wanted to say, but it's more to it than just the words and the sentence. And I think that's so beautiful about the Bible, is that it's there's just so much to take out of it. But I wanted to touch on two things now, but I actually forgot what the one was. So I think
I've got one.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that are holding people back is actually because giving themselves the permission to achieve like the success they're after. That's literally the biggest thing. They feel like they're not worth it. It's like, really me? Like, can I do this? It's just giving yourself the permission because God already gave it to you. You just need to accept it.
Yeah,
and I think that's and with just believing. I mean, that's all it comes out. You don't have to do all these acts. I think in the Bible it also says it's not about what you do whatsoever. It's like just believing and believing you will achieve this goal.
Yeah, but I do think it comes down to what you do, though.
Yeah.
Because the reason I think that is because believing is doing something. So because
That's good,
what is reaping what you sow if you're not doing anything? Sowing is doing something, But for me, that's like I had to give myself a extreme permission because for example, I used to be a horrible person to people, to just life in general. And then when I started getting into business, I'm like, oh, do I deserve this? I was so scared of success, and that was a pitfall for me, and that's why I just kept hitting this. I kept hitting this wall because I was worried about my past, not understanding that I've already been forgiven. And it's so easy to fall into that because you have to understand that, like you said, you've already been forgiven. But I would argue that you have to you reap what you sow, and you have to do something in order to reap what you sow, because sowing is doing something.
Yeah.
So for example, what Hunter said earlier, the devil tries to get into your mind in every way, shape, or form. And the reason that he can get into your mind is because you've left so much space there for him to get into there. Yeah. But if you eliminate that space with belief and faith and the word, there's no more space left. The devil has a hard time getting into your mind. You stop fearing success. You understand that you've been forgiven, and now you prosper. And that is doing something. Eliminating that space is doing something. Yeah. So now I'm at the point where we're on a palm, because I've understood that I've been forgiven. I filled that space, and now I'm reaping what I sow.
It's also faith without works is dead, right?
Yeah,
But also it starts with a faith, though.
Yeah.
Because you won't act if you don't believe it's true.
So here's what I want to say, because I remember when I was just starting out, and I was watching all these videos trying to get answers. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But people talk so generally. And I feel like right now we're talking about faith without faith, faith without works, etc. But how do you get to the point where you become faithful? I think that's something that would be super valuable to touch on. How did you guys get to the point where you started to really dive deep into your faith? Because we're talking about faith and how it allows business success, but how do you get to that point?
Just remember that question, because I just want to say, guys, we are enduring the heat right now. The Dubai heat. Just look how we are sweating right now, okay? So just leave a like or a comment or something, bro. Really, I think we deserve this. We are dripping right now. Yeah. But what a privilege it is to be able to have this conversation right now in this place, Dubai. Wow, this is amazing. So, how did I get to
develop the faith?
Develop the faith, and this is actually the question I wanted to ask previously was, but I'm going to try and answer it as well. Is in the beginning, and I think Wait, I'm gonna ask my questions that don't forget. Is do you believe that you can reap the fruits of the Spirit without being a believer? So that's something I want to talk about now. So, but in any case, so to answer your question is, how I did it previously was I didn't really bring the Lord into my development phase when I started, because I wasn't really that, I don't know how should I say, like I wasn't going to church at that stage, you know. And so for me, I was trying to convince myself mentally, like, oh, I can do this, you know, oh, I can have faith. I'm going to try and allow myself, because I struggled a lot with self-belief, you know, like, can I even do this in the first place, you know, like trying to pursue like agency or like whatever, like business, building our community we're currently building. It's like, it's a very big, crazy thing, especially if you are comparing it to everyone else. It's like no one else is doing that I know of, except for obviously me and Andre now. And like obviously like networking, that's why we're doing this. But how I did it was I was just trying to convince myself mentally via self-transcendent worksheets, affirmations, visualization. But obviously having the Lord now, this is actually a very cool thing. Is we are and a lot of non-believers is following once again the biblical principle of trying to just mimic what God already believes you are. And it's so easy to just like to Taylor Welch, is it Taylor Welch?
Yeah.
He also says that, you know, just doing it according to the Spirit is so easier, because you just submit and just follow what God believes you to be. Now, if you want to try and do it in your own way, scientifically, trying to work with like your brain or whatever, it's like affirming it, visualization, whatever, there'll always be an underlying feeling of like, or like, I'm just faking this because it's me, you know? It's like, it's that self-reliance of like, I did this. And it's like, but did I really do this? Because like 3 years ago I couldn't, and I was fat and whatever. Like, and who am I really? You know, then you like caught up in this fake illusion of you trying to fake the ideal version of yourself. Because I believed up until this point, I really believe. I think I changed that now on this podcast. Is I believe it's like you can only, when you start hitting the gym, you are small and let's say maybe skinny fat or whatever, and you want to be big. For you to be able to continue to hit the gym, I believed you had to fake it because your fruits of your labor is delayed. Mm-hmm. And so you don't see the fruits of your labor, and so you're still skinny fat while you're hitting the gym, but you somehow have to convince yourself that you're not going to be that. And so you become the embodiment of this fake gym guy without really being it. But after 3 years, the only thing that's left is the gym guy, and that skinny fat guy falls away. Then that is you. But in between that, it feels like a delusion and you faked it. I don't know, that's my thing. But if you even go to what Taylor says, is, you know, if you just go to the Spirit and you see what the Lord believes you are, then that is true, because you just attach to that. And that's what where the faith can come from. So, but that's how I sort of did it, was just via affirmations and stuff like that. I think that's still important though, but you have to realize where it's coming from. It's not you. It's not you changing yourself. I think coming back to the Bible and trying to figure out what that is, comes, and then you don't know what I mean, then link it from that. That's sort of how I did it.
Yeah, the way that I truly went about it for myself in developing my faith and getting to that point to where now I feel so strongly about it, I want to sit down in front of a camera and talk about it, is back 2 years ago when I was getting into all of this stuff, when I was just broken. I came out of a relationship that meant the world to me, and it ended tragically. I didn't have any money. I was basically just repairing my whole life. I had just done a lot of things that led me to a situation that was just unideal. And I had this feeling in my stomach of literal brokenness, of just like you just have a rock in there. And the way that I came to turning to faith from that point was, honestly, I had a dream. And it says right in the Bible that the Lord will come to you in dreams. And I had a dream of this ideal life. I had a dream because I wanted it so bad, but I was so broken, I was so distressed, and I was just unhappy with everything and anything that was going on. And I had a dream that everything was as I wanted it, materialistic-wise, family-wise, and love-wise. And I woke up, and I remember I had this feeling of peace, of just straight peace. And I'm like, where did this come from? Where could have this come from? You know, I'm just like, this was amazing. And for me, going through the confirmation and stuff, like, this is personal, but even if I hadn't, it's an overwhelming sense of peace and of vital reassurance that it led me straight to it has to be a higher power. There's just, even if I hadn't had any religious background, there's no possible way that I could have had that experience and not have drawn it to a higher power. It was just unhuman-like. And that's what made me open up my Bible. And that's what made me start reading my Bible. And as I read my Bible, this feeling of guilt, this feeling of sadness, and this feeling of just lack of everything that I wanted started to come back, because I developed the faith that it was coming back. And it was like what you were saying with the gym. You know, you just have to stay in the persona of the skinny fat guy until the skinny fat guy is gone. I had to stay in the persona of I'm broke, miserable, and unhappy, but I'm changing. And as you're changing, the Lord comes to you, and He will reaffirm to you that what you're doing is right, and then your faith is just compound affected, because you get reassurance on what you're doing, it being the correct thing. And that was really how my faith really started to get very strong.